Self-test. What are the standard assurances and how does the Office for Civil Rights enforce civil rights laws? This short review will test your knowledge about the standard assurances as they pertain to a recipient's civil rights obligations and the enforcement methods of the Office for Civil Rights. In a moment, we will present test scenarios based on the following background. The Plainview Social Service Agency, or agency, receives funding from the Central State Public Safety Department, or Central State, with money made available from the Justice Department's Office for Victims of Crime. Here is the first scenario. A new program analyst at Central State, Terry Bell, was completing an annual review of the award file for the agency. She noticed that there were no standard assurances in the agency's file relating to civil rights. Does this matter? Yes, it does. Just as direct recipients from the Justice Department must certify standard assurances attesting to their willingness to comply with federal civil rights laws, state administering agencies are responsible for ensuring that all subrecipients execute similar documents. This obligation is consistent with the express language in the Justice Department standard assurances. A state administering agency is responsible for ensuring the compliance of subrecipients and contractors with all applicable federal civil rights laws. In this instance, Terry Bell should make sure that the agency executes standard assurances that are consistent with the standard assurances from the Justice Department as they relate to civil rights obligations. She may also want to check to see if the absence of standard assurances in this one case suggests a larger systemic problem indicating Central State's failure to require standard assurances related to civil rights matters from all subrecipients. Here is the second scenario. When Terry Bell was making an on-site monitoring visit to one of the agency's domestic violence shelters, she met with Sarah, a staff member, who confided that her supervisor was sexually harassing her. What, if anything, should Terry do? Once Terry learns from an on-site visit that there is an allegation of sexual harassment involving a subrecipient, she cannot ignore that situation. Sexual harassment is a form of employment discrimination based on sex. A state administering agency is responsible for ensuring that its subrecipients comply with the applicable civil rights laws, which in this instance include laws that expressly prohibit sex discrimination in employment. If Central State has a complaint process, Terry should remind Sarah that she could file a complaint with Central State. At a minimum, Terry should also let Sarah know that she can file an employment discrimination claim directly with the Office for Civil Rights because the agency is receiving funding from the Office for Victims of Crime. Without necessarily commenting on the merits of Sarah's claim, Terry should document the allegation of sexual harassment and the steps Central State took to address it. For more information on complaint procedures, see the separate online training segment on the civil rights obligations of state administering agencies. Here's the third scenario. The Office for Civil Rights recently received 5 complaints from Spanish-speaking immigrants seeking services from an agency shelter. Central State also recently sent the Office for Civil Rights an adverse state court finding against the agency, highlighting the agency's practice of turning away prospective beneficiaries from Latin America. Based on this information, what would you recommend that the Office for Civil Rights do? The complaints of discrimination against the agency, coupled with the adverse finding, strongly suggest that the Office for Civil Rights initiate a compliance review of the agency, with the investigation focusing on the services the agency's shelter provides to Central Americans who may be limited English proficient. This concludes the self-test on the training segment, What are the standard assurances and how does the Office for Civil Rights enforce civil rights laws?